Hi, everyone. Welcome to a very special edition of Kosher Sex with Rabbi Shmuley and Chana. And what an honor, what a joy to have a world-renowned celebrity, television legend and icon, one and only Steve Harvey with us. He makes us laugh. He lifts us up. He inspires us. His range is just phenomenal. He does everything from the Miss Universe pageant to Family Feud, Celebrity Family Feud, and international best-selling author of Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman. And that's one of the things we're going to zero in on. But before I say any of that, Steve, my daughter Chana was just telling you that my mother, who lives in Miami, is, without exaggeration, your single biggest fan. Her name is Eleanor, and she watches you twice a day. Who watches a guy on TV twice a day?
In the kitchen and the living room.
Yes.
It's like echoing. Fan.
Yes.
You have infiltrated every room of the house. So, yeah, if you'd give her a shout out, I'd get a lot of brownie points with my mom. Her name is Eleanor.
Okay, here's the deal. To my greatest fan residing in Miami, to the woman who I adore more than any other fan on this planet, I want to thank you for watching me every day. Keep both TVs on in the kitchen and the living room. Dominate the airways with Family Feud. Know that I love you. I'm glad God put you in my light. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And Miss Eleanor and I am now a huge fan of yours, your son, your granddaughter, everybody. So now I'm in the family. So thank you very much. And that's from Steve Harvey, straight to you, Miss Eleanor.
Whoa, whoa. Now you've overdone it. She's now gonna like adopt you and kind of marginalize me.
Freak out.
Okay, the one and only Steve Harvey's with us. Act like a lady, think like a man. I remember when it came out in 2009. You dominated the New York Times bestseller list. You were at #1 for like more than a year. It was what we Jews call mashuga. That's like crazy. 64 weeks on #1 New York Times bestseller. And what I loved about the book is that you were so candid, Steve. You spoke very frankly to women about what guys think. What was your purpose in writing the book?
Well, it started off with, as you're sitting here with your daughter, it started out simply because of my oldest daughter. I have twins. And she was dating a guy, and he had been over to the house probably 5 times. And so finally, he was in the kitchen, and I was in there with my father-in-law, who's 86 years old. I was making a sandwich, and he asked the young man, he said, "So what's your plans with my granddaughter?" And he got the hemming and hawing, and he didn't have an answer. And he said, no, I'm asking you, what's your plans for my granddaughter? And so I said, sit down for a minute, man. He's in weightlifting and all this. He's a personal trainer, built up guy, and sit down. I said, so let's talk about this for a second. So what are your plans for my daughter? And he said, well, what you mean, what's my plans? And I said, wait a minute, man. Every guy who approaches a woman to even ask her name, he has a plan. He may not let her know what it is, but he has a plan. There's no reason for me to introduce myself if I don't have a plan. I'm a guy. We don't do anything for nothing. And so I said, what's your plan? And so I kept pressing him. He never gave an answer. And then he just blurted out, he said, well, tell you the truth, we just kicking it. I went, kicking it? I said, really? Does she know that? And he goes, well, I called her in there. I said, Brandy, come here. Sit down. I said, explain to my daughter what you all's relationship is right now. He said, oh, no, Mr. Harvey, that's just between us. Wait, just between us? No, man, I'm not on your side. This is my princess. No, I'm on her side. Tell her what you said. And he said, well, I just told your father and your grandfather that we just kicking it. And her face cracked. And it broke her heart. And so a week later, she said, Dad, how do you know to ask that? I said, because I'm a guy. She said, but you've told me, but what should I have asked? And I told her a series of stuff to ask. And she said, Dad, you know how many women don't know that? I said, well, I tell you all the time and come and talk to me about these guys. And you never do. So now I had to talk. And so she said, you ought to write a book. And that was it. The book was born. And the title was very simple. I implore women to act like a lady, never stop being a lady, But you got to start thinking like men. You got to understand the thought process that drives a man. And that was the book.
You know, that's an incredible story, because if I had done that with my daughter Chana, who runs created the Kosher Sex company, and if I had done that with a guy, I would be filled with something from Smith and Wesson right now. I'd be like gasping for air. She would have shot me.
You still try.
She would have shot me. You must have an incredible relationship with your daughter to have pulled that off. Chana, would you have let me do that with one of your suitors?
Definitely not. But I'm surprised that guy actually.
Oh, she was mad.
I would also be mad. Yeah, I'm surprised he admitted that to you. That he said we're kicking it. That's definitely not something you tell the father.
No, but see. Yeah, but see, what's really stunning is that he won't tell it to you.
He thought you had some kind of like.
And the other stunning part is you don't know how to open that conversation with the guy to get at what his purpose is. And that's what's the purpose of the book, to teach women the questions to ask early on so you can know, because every woman has the right to know where this is going. You shouldn't be in a relationship with a guy and just blindly go along to his whim and wishes to see when he decides he wants to get married, when he's going to give you a ring, or even if he's going to give you a ring. So, I mean, you know, my daughters have gotten angry with me several times, all of them, all four of them. Oh, but I don't care. My job is to protect my daughters. I don't care if you like me for it. That's okay.
Oh, God.
But I'm not going to let this guy walk on you if I can stop it.
Yeah, you know what? Touche. I think there should be a whole book just about that, how dads have to protect their daughters, no matter how much it makes them unpopular with their kids. I couldn't agree with you more, because one of the insightful things about the book is that there's a raw honesty about what guys are. And a lot of women didn't want to hear it. I think the most insightful thing you said in the book, and it was hilarious, you're an incredible writer, but the most insightful thing for me about the book was, you know, women, you know why you don't get guys? Because you keep on asking other women about guys. When really you should have asked the guy, and they never do that. And only a dad can understand what these guys are up to. Right, Steve?
Right. Because the problem with women is you expect a man to reciprocate the love the way you give it. We're not capable of that. We're not designed that way. And so now you get frustrated, and then women exchange a lot of information about men that's just not true. Like, well, if I love him with all my heart, he should love me with all his. No. A man has to accept me for the way I am. No, that's not how it works. I'm going to love him until he loves me. No. And so women frustrate themselves by giving so much of themselves so completely, so wonderful, because a woman's love is complete. It's nurturing, it's caring, it's sharing, it's understanding, it's communication, it's holding, it's nurturing, it's you get sick, I heal. Women do everything. A man is different. When we love you, I call them the 3 Ps. We protect, we profess, and we provide. That's what we were designed to do. Anything else, you in the bonus round. But if you want protection, he should do that. If you want to profess your love, give you the title of fiance, wife, whatever. And then if you want provision, a man has to be willing to get out there and make it happen for you. And those are the 3 ways we show it. Everything else is bonus.
Well, in order to establish those 3 Ps, let's go to your 90-day rule. Like, how's a woman actually supposed to know whether the guy is kicking it around, or he's a player, or like... Oh, so your 90-day rule, let's talk about that for a second, Steve.
That was the most controversial thing I put in the book, because women today are under the exception, if I don't give this to a man, he'll go somewhere else and get it.
Right.
And I tell women all the time that they have the greatest benefit known to mankind. Women drive this world. Make no mistake about it. Everything a man does is centered around a woman somewhere. The only reason I went to school, The only reason was because I figured if I got a good enough education, I'd make enough money, and then I'd get the woman I wanted. The only reason I paid sports was because on Fridays I could wear the leather jacket, and all the girls knew I played on the team. The only reason I bathed is because I'm around women. If I was never around women, why am I bathing? What do I care? It's everything, man. It's the reason I make money. The reason I've ever bought a diamond, the reason I have a swimming pool, the reason I ever try to buy a nice house, it's because of a woman somewhere. And women somehow lose sight of that. So I created the 90-day rule, because when you first meet a guy, for the first 2 weeks, he's going to be everything you've ever dreamed of. Partly because a woman told him that. Because in the questioning period, in the early relationship aspect, what does a man always ask a woman? So tell me, what do you like? And then here you go. You roll out the roadmap to your heart. You tell them, I like little sunset walks. I like early morning phone calls. I like chocolates. I like flowers. I like roses. I like someone who texts me throughout the day. Okay, guess what? For the next 2 weeks, you're going to get more chocolates than you can swallow. You're going to see flowers everywhere. You're going to get text every 5 minutes of the day. He's going to hold your hand. He's going to go on walks. And for 2 weeks, you think you've met the man of your dreams. Next thing you know, hook, line, and sinker, you buy into it. So I had to slow women down with the 90-day rule. Now, where did I get the 90-day rule from? Because I used to work at Ford Motor Company. I've worked at Lincoln Electric. Anybody that's ever worked at the post office or Ford Motor Company, you have a probation period at all these companies. It's usually 90 days you have to remain at a company. It allows the company to take a good look at you for 90 days. They can determine if you work well with others, if you show up on time, if you know how to get along, if you complete tasks, if you're a team player. They assess all of this. And then at the end, if you make the 90-day period, they provide you with the benefit package. You then get medical, dental, you get eyeglasses, you qualify for vacations, you get the benefit package. Well, women have to remember that they have the greatest benefit package ever known to man. And what is it? It is them, their time, the way they smell, their hair, the way their skin feels, their love, their bodies, their shapes, all of it, man. It's like, it's unbelievable. What you have is the thing that if you are a heterosexual man, you have to have that. You cannot live without that. That is the ultimate benefit package. Now, if Ford won't give you medical for 90 days, UPS won't give you glasses for 90 days, UPS won't let you have dental for 90 days, you can't get their benefit package. Why would you give a man your benefit package before the 90-day probation period is up? That was the 90-day rule. That's how I was born. And boy, women fought me on that. Well, if I don't give it to him and I'm not all this to him, he can go somewhere else. Well, let him go. He don't want you. He just wants the benefits. You got to get yourself positioned to where he wants you.
So you're saying it's a screening process, basically.
Absolutely. And why would it not be? You're being screened. From the moment he walks up to you, he's screening you. When he sees you across the room, if you're in line with a tray in a cafeteria, he's screening you. Why would a man walk up to you and introduce himself? Why? Because he wants something. Why? We don't care what you do for a living. We don't care what your hopes and dreams are. We want something. We care nothing about what your hopes for tomorrow are. What's your aspirations to change the world? No, we want something. So we got to go over here now and find out how much it's going to cost us to get what we want. It's the only reason.
So there's nothing nicer than a man that hasn't slept with you yet. That's what you're saying.
There's nothing nicer than a man. Well, got to make him earn it.
I guess that's what you're saying.
Well,
But
no,
Steve, I gotta be-
if I can chime in for a second. Look, Steve, all I can say is a father of 6 daughters, and who's got 6 daughters? Thank God, very few guys in the country. I always tell my daughters I'm part of some elite club that I'm unaware of with 6 daughters. What Steve is saying is that once upon a time, men and women kind of accepted that men could be, I'm not going to say sexually predatory, because that's taken a whole new meaning in this in the time of Me Too. I don't mean predators. I mean that men are sexually adventurous. Everything Steve said, they love the scent of a woman. Napoleon wrote about Josephine, that he couldn't wait to see her after the Battle of Marengo in Italy. That don't bathe, he wrote there, because he wanted the scent of Josephine. They love the sound of a woman. A woman's incredible voice, let alone carnal pleasures from a woman. But what Steve is saying is that when men want to get that, they're prepared to do a lot of bamboozling. They're prepared to do a lot of shimming. They're prepared to do say a lot of stuff that they don't mean. And it's quite amazing that women drop their guard. So once upon a time, women knew to try to filter that out. That's what courting was about. Or as Steve did with his daughter, dads were a lot more involved in dating rituals, and they kind of did screen men. Now we don't do that anymore, because women convince themselves that they can be just as sexual as men and compartmentalize their emotions and commitment from their bodies. Wow. Like, I can cut myself in half and have this incredibly intimate sexual experience with a guy and feel nothing. But I've always said, Steve, I don't believe that's true, even anatomically, even physiologically, because guys, their private parts are on the outside of their body, and they find it very easy to treat sex as doing something to someone else. But for a woman, sex is a literal sharing of the self. Quite literally is a sharing of the self. So that compartmentalization is much more difficult. Women have tried to do that since the 60s, the sexual revolution. I think it's failed, because I see so many women who've started to hate guys. They become very cynical about guys. They become man haters because they've been hoodwinked so many times they think all guys are jerks. And you're saying, no, use the 90-day rule to find a gentleman.
And look, women are right. They're deservedly so. If you keep getting shammed, hoodwinked by guys over and over and over, what I tried to do was give women the tools to operate in the way that men operate. Act like a lady, but you have to know how we're thinking. This guy is a hunter. That is his nature. If you look at hunting shows, most hunters are really men. There's some women who hunt, but let's be real. Hunters, Bass Pro Shops is cause of men. REI camping store is cause of men. Shotguns is cause of men. Deer traps and blinds is cause of men. My wife, Marjorie's not sitting in a treehouse for 8 hours waiting on a deer to come by. My wife would go, what are you talking about? We're not doing this. Guys are traditionally the hunters. What women have to do is understand that the ultimate power lies in the woman. It really is. You're the most powerful thing. I was talking about Aristotle Onassis, who married Jackie Onassis after President Kennedy died. He had the best quote I've ever heard to help women understand their power. He said, if women did not exist, all the money in the world would have no meaning. Period. What would you need money for if there were no women? Well, I got nothing to buy. I got nothing to impress. I've never bought myself a diamond. Never went to the diamond store. Oh my God, this will look great on me. No, I bought my wife so much stuff because that's what she wants. And man, if I could get women to understand their power and their rights to control the relationship, because look, we can't hold your hand unless you let us. We can't get a kiss unless you give us one. We can't lay down unless you invite us. You got all the cards. But women today have been made to believe by the slickest men out here that if you don't do what I want when I want it, I'll just get somebody else who does. And now women find themselves going along with things that they're not ready for, really want to, but they're competing against other women. And they think that if they're doing it, that they have to do it. And that's a bad position they've gotten in.
I think you're speaking
Right.
real honesty and being very insightful. It might be counterintuitive in today's more libertarian climate where we want to pretend that none of this is true, but it rings true to me. Chana, how could you disagree with anything?
No, well, what I'm saying is I actually enjoy what Steve said, because it's you really say it like it is. You do. And you talk about how men are much more simple and women are more complicated. But the issue I took with the book and what you're saying is that it just kind of feels like, as a woman, you're always trying to, and you even brought this up, Steve, you talk about how men, they're in a space sometimes where women just kind of like they fall into the cracks. And that's the only place they're like, men kind of have to make room for them. And we're always having to just deal with men the way they are and not expect anything more from them. And it's like women are always kind of making excuses and just like, men are this way, so just deal with it. And especially in Judaism, there is this concept of like men being a certain way in their nature, but going beyond that and trying to get some more depth to men. So it just kind of feels like it's like a manual for how to deal with men. And what about men kind of tailoring themselves a little bit to give women what they want?
Well, listen to this though. You're exactly right. But you can get what you want. But you have to understand the animal that you're dealing with, just like we have to understand the animal that we're dealing with. See, in the beginning, we give you everything you want until we get what we want. Then you get who we really are. How many times has that happened to a woman? So what I'm trying to get women to do is not that it's not women have to make all the adjustments, but men being the hunter, and you women constantly being hunted by this hunter who has become an expert marksman and knows how to wait in the bushes and knows the right bait to set out there. Okay, I'll give you an example. You remember earlier I said, when a man asks you what you like, right? And then you give him the roadmap to your heart. Well, for the next 2 weeks, he gives you everything you asked for. In the beginning of a relationship, when a man asks you what you like, there is a chance for you to grab the horse by the reins here. And you go, well, this is your chance to set your standards. So instead of giving him the roadmap to your heart, here's what you do. So tell me what you like. You say, I like a man who's punctual. I like a man who's caring. I like a man who's chivalrous. I like a man who's kind. I like a man who's trustworthy. Now you're giving him the answer to the question, but you're also telling him a set of standards that you have for yourself that you're wanting some man to meet. And then without telling him how to be chivalrous, kind, courteous, loving, respectful, you now allow him to demonstrate to you what is his definition of all those things you asked for. And you've now set your standards in place. And so now you can become non-accepting. Example, I'm coming by to pick you up at 7:30. 7:45, you don't hear from him. 8 o'clock, you don't hear from him. 8:30, he at the door. Oh, I made it. Okay, well, let me get my coat. No. The date was 7:30. You didn't think to call me at 7:35 and say I'm running late. You just, an hour, you pop up, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I'm a little tired right now. Don't really feel like it. We'll just make another date. I promise you, the next time that guy, 7:30, he's at your door. If he wants you. Now, if he just wants something from you, I ain't got no time for all this she doing, because she got some standards I ain't fitting to meet, because he done got away with it before. So I'm not really asking women. I would never ask my daughters to just see how my men are and fit into those cracks. No, I've begged them, make standards, make him climb the fence. Give you an example. If you got a yard and you plant your grass and you put your flower bed up and you make a 2-foot high fence around it, every time a ball bounces down the street, it can go in your yard. A dog can just hop over in the yard and dig holes in the grass and uproot the plants and hop right back. Hey, get out of that yard. And he'll hop back over there. But if you got an 8-foot high fence around your yard, you got to do some climbing to get up in this grass. Men are just like the dogs that hop over in your yards or the kids that play in your yard. It's harder to climb over that 8-foot fence, tear the grass up, play in the plants, and then climb back over that fence and get out. No, because it was hard to get in there. The harder it is for a man to get to it, the more he appreciates it and the better he treats it. And people will start walking by looking at your yard and go, wow, her yard is so well kept. Well, she got an 8-foot high fence over here, partner. And it's not available for everybody to come play in. So you got to look at what God did. What this thing that you have. I don't know if I can tell you this on this show or not, but the show is called Kosher Sex. So here's the sex part.
You can pretty much
that
say
probably ain't that kosher. So here it is. Women, God gave women a particular item that they all have. It's the most incredible item ever invented, ever known to mankind. Nothing is more special than this item that you have. Now, all men have an item of their own. They ain't really that valuable. It ain't crumbled empires. It didn't bring Rome to their knees. Nobody fights over what they have. People fight over what a woman has. Cleopatra had a whole empire go down cause of her. I'm telling you right now, you've seen it through the course of time. So here's the deal. When God created precious minerals, he made it difficult to get to. If you want a pearl, you got to dive to the bottom of the ocean. You got to run the risk of getting the bends when you come back up. If you want diamonds, you got to bore deep into the side of a mountain. You don't know where it is, but you got to dig until you hope you get there. If you want oil, you got to dig down into the ground. You don't know if you're going to hit it, but you got to at least, you know it's down there, so you got to try. And he made every precious mineral hard to get to. Diamonds, oil, pearls. He made it difficult to get to. That's why this item that he gave all women, this is why he put it exactly where he put it. It's in the most hard to get to place on your body. It can't be seen unless you show it to us. We can't, it's nothing. Women are sitting on a gold mine. All you have to do is act like it. I don't know what part it is you're not trying to grab right now, Hannah, but come on, just like I grab my daughters, I try to get them.
Huh? He loves this.
Oh, first of all,
because Hannah, he's been wanting.
Hannah, what Steve's referring to is a woman's brain, of course. You can't.
Yes, obviously.
Get to it. That's not a woman's brain. That's what I took from this whole discussion.
Hey.
You know what, Steve? Women like my daughter don't necessarily want to hear this because they don't want to hear that these relationships are going to take some work, and that when you submit very early, you pay a serious price. 36% of all dates in America have sex on the first date. And I always tell women, when you have sex with a guy on the first date, you can kiss the relationship goodbye. It almost never pans out because of what you just said. There are no gates. It's what relationship experts call the erotic obstacle. It's actually more exciting when that fence is there. That fence doesn't deter people.
I agree with that. What are you talking? I do agree with that.
Well, then why are you arguing with Steve? He's absolutely right.
I'm just saying beyond that, it feels a lot of the time like women just have to cater to how men are, and no one's telling the men like you have to be way better. It's more like telling the women how to deal with men because they are the way they are and you're not going to change them.
I agree with what you're saying. We need to have courses for men that they won't attend.
Where's the sequel?
We need to have books for men that they won't read. You know, when the last time a man you dated said, you know, I'm spending the night, I'm having a bubble bath and I got some candles lit and some wine and I'm reading tonight. Who is this guy? You know, I wish I could get it, but that's not how you approach men. And women have asked me, Steve, why don't you write a book on how men should behave? Because I know they're not going to buy it and read it. Because I know men. So the best way to get men to behave a certain way is to get women to teach men how they are to be treated. And the best way to get a man to teach you how to treat you is to know how they think and equip you with the tools to make them do what you want them to do. Because trust me, if they want you, they are going to do what you want to do. Give you an example. I'm dating Marjorie, right? Now, Marjorie and I dated back in the 80s. I became homeless. I lost everything. There were no cell phones, so I just didn't drive to Memphis anymore, right? So I just never went back. I didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have a cell phone. We broke up, boom, 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 boom. I get a divorce in 2005. I'm sitting at a dice table. I'm sitting at a roulette table. I'm gambling. My bodyguard is behind me, and he's talking on the phone for about an hour because he just stands there. A little bit later, he says, hey, man, I got a phone call for you. I said, hey, man, you know I don't talk to nobody when I'm gambling. He said, I think you're going to want to hear this. I pick up the phone. I said, hello. She said, boy, what you want? And it was Marjorie. I had not talked to Marjorie since 1989.
Wow.
Wow.
It was 2005, and I still knew her voice. Because the first night I met her was in a comedy club. She walked in late with a girlfriend. They came on the front row. They had tickets. I'm a young act. I see her, and I stop talking. The whole audience is just looking at me. You can know they snickering. She was gorgeous. I had never seen a woman like this in my life. This close to me anyway, you know. And I looked at her, and the very first thing I said to her was, I don't know who you are, lady. I said, but one day I'm gonna marry you. Whole audience busted out laughing. I was beyond serious because I just needed God to let me meet this woman. So we dated for about a year and a half. I got in a lot of trouble, lost everything I owned, became homeless. 2005, she gets on the phone. The first thing I say to her was, so how's your blankety blank husband? Because I had heard she got married. She said, Steve, I've been divorced for 3 years.
Wow.
The next morning, I got a plane. I flew to Memphis, asked her to have lunch with me. She walked across the Adams Mark Hotel. When I saw her walking towards me, I said, I will never let this woman go again, ever in my life. We started dating in 2005. We've been together ever since. She is the chick of my dreams. I gave her a ring, a wedding ring, an engagement ring in December. I took her to La Familia down in Mexico. I proposed to her. She said yes. This was right before Christmas. Round along my birthday, which is January, about a month later, she said, so Steve, so when are we getting married? I said, look, I just got out of this divorce. It was bad. I lost everything again. I don't want to send you through that. Let me get myself together and we'll make a date. She took the engagement ring off, handed it to me and said, I don't want to wear a ring that doesn't symbolize a date. When you are ready to marry me, I'll put this ring back on. Oh. She handed it to me. Wow. I took that ring back off, slid it right back on her finger and said, you named the date. 2 days later, she said, June 24th. June 24th, we got married because that's what Marjorie said she wanted. And I wanted her more than I've ever wanted anything in my life. Wow. So I gave her what she wanted. And she controls me that way. Sorry. I make all the money at our house. She controls me. She gets everything she wants out the deal because she knows her value. And she gets what she wants. And I want to make her happy. I mean, look, how did you get your dad? Why is he this great father that you still talk to?
Oh my gosh.
Because some woman somewhere.
I want us to tell her that.
Some woman.
I know that. What are you talking about?
Got him to do right. He ain't always been the rabbi. Come on now. Before you the rabbi, you got to be something. You know, God got to save us from something. You know, he needs our undivided attention from something. So before he was a rabbi, who was he? You know, you ain't 2 years. I don't think you can't be a rabbi at 2.
No, you can't.
You know, Steve, in our last conversation, I was talking to a lot of people about this. You know, we just gave you a special award for the foundation you and Marjorie run together, and you've touched 6 million souls in education. So we discussed all that. It was amazing. And people were very moved People were moved by your acceptance speech. But what I said to everybody is, I'm just like astonished, gobsmacked, just how spiritual and godly Steve Harvey is. Like every word is God. And so we were talking about that. And there's even a godly message in really what you're saying, because Chana's saying, wait a second, I have to be kind of the gatekeeper to make sure that a guy's a gentleman and he's not a jerk. I mean, I just want to go out on a date. I now have to be kind of like the security guard to make sure he doesn't get into the garden. And
yeah, it's exhausting.
The truth is, from a God perspective, all of us are comprised of two things. We have a body and we have a soul. And what you're saying very insightfully is that very often men can act motivated only by the body. And that's what, evolutionary biologists would tell you, that their main interest is, the distribution of the gene pool. That's why they want to be sexual. They're motivated by forces that they can't even control, that it's, that they're only the body, and it's only about sex, and it's only about being carnal and bedding women and then moving on. But the truth is, there's also a soul, and we're divided into those two. Your technique allows women to determine whether men are behaving physically or kind of spiritually, if they're acting out of the soul's need to be intimate. What you just described, what you had with Marjorie, is this intimate connection. And you spotted it instantly, that she was a soulmate. She wasn't a girlfriend. She wasn't even just a wife. I'm going to marry you one day, but she was a soulmate. That there's this, and I think men are intimacy seekers. I think men, I know that, biology would say that none of us are monogamous and we just want to have as many sexual partners as possible. And the body part of us, that's probably accurate. But the soul part of us wants intimate communion with one person. We want to be understood. We want to open up. I said before, what are the 3 P's again? Because that was brilliant. What are the 3 P's a man gives to a woman?
Profess, protect, and provide.
So the profess part is very insightful, that we want to actually share of our most intimate self. And I think we are intimacy seekers, but I think it's more of our soulful motivation as opposed to just our physical motivation. So Chana, what Steve is not saying that all men are jerks and all men are dogs and all men are primates, and you need to like train this gorilla how to behave like a gentleman. What he's saying is that men have different motivations. And if you want the higher motivation to come out, then you have to have some standards. Is that a kind of a little bit of a fair summary, Steve?
That's about it. Chana, if I were talking to you, which I am, I'm looking at you. You're an attractive young lady. You don't have that problem. So you have the package, right? Okay, so now here's the deal. You are the gatekeeper of your body, and your heart is yours. Just like I'm the gatekeeper of mine, your father's the gatekeeper of his, your mother's the gatekeeper of her. That's your body and your heart. It belongs to nobody else unless you give it to them. So you are the gatekeeper. That's not an odd responsibility. That's yours. Everybody has that responsibility.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I just find, especially in dating, that women are kind of taught we always have to be on guard, because guys want this from you and they want that from you. And maybe there should be more of a message that speaks just to men. I don't know how to give that message, because you're right. They don't want to read, and they don't sit and talk with their girlfriends. And that's actually something I wanted to touch on, because you...
Just one second. I really don't want to interrupt, but I don't want to lose this train of thought, because Steve said before, people are, guys are not going to read books and go to seminars. That's true.
So how do you get this message across?
So I wanted to say that, back 1,000 years ago in the courts of France, Eleanor of Aquitaine was the mother of Richard the Lionheart. She invented courtly love. And the idea of courtly love was to address what you were saying. It was to make men better. How? Because courtly love held out a woman's, all the benefits that Steve spoke about, a woman's love, a woman's heart. And knights would compete in jousting tournaments and for the hand of the fair maiden. That's how they got better. They got better because a woman, she didn't play games with a guy. She rather made herself available to men who were worthy of her. So what Steve is kind of saying is, believe it or not, women are part of the perfecting tool for men, because they are enough of a prize for a man to better himself for. Right, Steve?
Right. Yeah. Chana, look, you all are faced today, even in something that's a little bit more expanded. When I first wrote the book in 2009, I've been looking at this thing closely. You know, I have a young daughter that's kind of famous, and Lord have mercy, she's stunningly gorgeous, and I can't protect her
Yeah.
from everything. One of my great regrets is moving back out to LA, taking this beautiful koi fish, and she had enough money to get her own apartment and everything. And just all of a sudden, I had this beautiful koi fish in the ocean. Koi fishes should stay in the pond. Koi fish don't belong in the ocean. These beautiful colors, and here come all the sharks and the barracudas, and I couldn't watch all of them. I just couldn't keep all. You know, when she lived in my house, I could get all of them. Oh, you ring the doorbell, partner, my office is right by the door. Come on in here, young man. Let me talk to you for a little while. Oh man, I done rousted a bunch of guys out, but she had her own place. And I watched her suffer. I watched her try to get it right. And I discovered something since I wrote the book. Young women today are up against it doubly. And because of social media, I'm telling you right now, Instagram, which I had to learn from my son, is the highlight reel of people's life.
Yeah.
They put their best outfit on, their best pose, they put all the filters, click, and there they go. And now you got this thing called DM. You can direct message a person without it showing up in their comment line. Oh, so now you got these boys that ain't worth a doggone. All of a sudden, they international players because they can DM anybody anywhere. Now, the highlight reel, and then you got all these women out here competing against each other for likes and views and all this stuff that's superficial. And you all live in a world now that's even harder to find what's real.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I started thinking with my daughter, I said, man, maybe she and I should do a book together because I could really speak to women from the standpoint. My daughter's 24. Wow. And I mean, man, social media, the thing that made her famous is the thing that tries to destroy her constantly, you know, and I try to help her understand that and all this here. And so I was thinking of what's the best way to speak to young women today? Okay, so here's the deal. The thing that you're looking for never changes. Love is love. It's what you want. Everybody wants to belong to somebody. Now, I said that at this women's group one time, and oh my God, this woman, she ate me alive. What are you talking about? Marjorie belongs to you. I said, Marjorie belongs to me. She's a human being. She's not a possession. You can't say that. No. Excuse me. She belongs to me. She's mine. But I have news for you. I belong to her. I want to belong to her. I want to belong to someone. So she wants to belong to me. You can have all these newfangled ways of doing stuff if you want to, but love ain't finna go out of style. Love is love. Who don't want to be loved? I just want to be somebody. You want to be special to somebody, but you still are the protector of your heart and your body. So you have to watch this. Now, you can train a man how to treat you. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. If you don't train him how to treat you, then you're going to get used and abused because they are out here to do that. Why would they not be? It's so many of you out here. You outnumber men. So men have figured out a way to do like your dad said, conquer as many as they can when they want to and make it about a physical thing. But it can't be just about a physical thing with you if you don't want it to be. You have to bring some more to the table. And so since men are the best hunters, see, women aren't good hunters. Women don't even like to hunt. Women don't want to be out here looking for a man. I hate it when I hear women go, name one friend of yours that was getting dressed one night and said, I'm going out and find me a husband and came back with one. Oh, what woman has done this? What did you put on? How short was it? How tight was it? And you went out and you came back with a husband, or you come back with somebody. But I promise you, it ain't finna be your husband. The Bible says, when a man findeth a wife, he finds a good thing. The problem, I was telling my assistant this the other day, when I find the man of my dreams and he looks like this, I say, hold on, listen to me. When you do see the man of your dreams, the only way this is going to work is he's got to look at you and see the woman of his dreams. If that two things don't connect, which has always had to connect throughout the course of time. So how do you find love? You guard your heart, you know how men play the rules, and you establish yourself with a series of very high expectations and standards. And some man is going to meet you there. I promise you that. As long as he knows, is this how high I got to jump to get over this fence, then this how high I'm finna jump. If they don't want to jump over the fence, they can't get in the yard to play. And that's just you. Don't get tired of doing what's right. That's what happens to y'all out here. Y'all get tired of what's doing right, and then you fall for anything. Now you're mad. All you had to, you know what you want. You look, there is no man that's everything. There's no man. There is one man that's everything. He sits way up in heaven somewhere, and your father, and he's not available. Okay, right. So me and your daddy, we ain't available.
That's right. Now we're it. We're
it. And it's sort of, you know, my daughter told me one time. She said, "Dad, I'm looking for you."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, good luck. That's gonna be hard." But
that's an honor.
Just one more.
That's an honor.
Give you a piece.
Your daughter uses you as the standard. I've always thought.
She said, "I want you, Dad."
Yeah. I've always thought men have to model this. Yeah. Dads have to model this very gentlemanly behavior because it sets the standard of what the daughters are going to look for. So, you know, this is.
That's why your daughter is on this. That's why your daughter's on this call with you, man.
I've told you.
Why do you think she's on this call with you?
Why are you so surprised? I've told you that before.
No, you know what's interesting, Steve. I have a lot of love for you. You're a special man. You're unique. You know, in fact, I want to tell you something from the Talmud. You know, the great compendium of all Jewish wisdom, compiled thousands of years ago. The Talmud says the best way to know if you're popular with God is if you're popular with people. If you bring joy to people's lives, it means that you're bringing joy to God. And I'm amazed at how much joy you bring to people. And I wanted to speak to you because I loved your book and I thought it was very candid. I didn't realize that this conversation was going to turn into a phenomenal counseling session for me and my daughter. My daughter will start listening to me now.
Still not.
No, man, you know what it is? Listen to me. My daughter is like your daughter. They know I love them. They know I will die for them. They know. I've said it out loud. I'll kill everybody for them. And I'm sorry. That's just me. It ain't, you got one bullet in your gun, you come in my house, you're going to have to use this on me. I promise you that. You're going to have to take that one bullet for me. My daughters know that. They keep thinking, though, that there's a new way to go about this.
Yeah.
And you're old and I hear what you're saying, Dad, but it ain't like that no more. But the problem is, love is the exact same that it's always been. And as long as you don't allow anybody to redefine it for you, love is the same way. Boy meets girl, they make eye contact. Boy wants girl, he'll do anything for that girl. And you got to stay at those standards to make sure that happens. Your soulmate is walking around somewhere. The only reason you have not met your soulmate to this day is because you are not prepared or ready to receive him. It is as simple as that. Why would God create your soulmate and never allow you to meet him? Because you're not prepared for him. Stop thinking you don't have a say-so on this. Stop thinking men have control of this, because I got news for you. We really don't. We ain't got control of nothing. I don't even have to tell my wife. My wife is smaller than me. She weighs 100 pounds less than I do. She makes 100% less money than I do. She is the most powerful person in our house. My sons can't talk back to her. My sons can't say anything disparaging to her. The girls bet not, because she got a whole nother relationship with them girls. She snap, crackle, pop on them girls. But them sons are raised the same way I was raised. You know, I use profanity when I talk quite often, right? My mother has never heard me to this day, till she died, never heard me say anything in her presence. And my father cussed all the time. If you cuss in front of your mama, I'll kill you. We were raised that way. We were taught to honor women. That's past, that type of teaching hasn't been passed on a lot. And that's another problem that women have.
I love what you're saying. Men honoring women.
They're not getting it, man. It's just
it's beautiful, but it doesn't really exist anymore.
He's saying it exists if you have standards, so that men need to become gentlemen in order to date you.
That I'm on board with, obviously. But I'm saying men, like the way that you say men are hunters, I really don't believe that we live in a time that if a man, that's how love works, that a man sees a woman and nothing is going to stop him. Men are not as proactive anymore. Like you said, there's so much.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Hannah, listen to this.
There's so much out there.
My daddy told me something listen to me. My daddy told me something a long time ago. He said, son, if you tell somebody the truth and they don't believe you, that ain't your fault. Now, I know what I'm telling you about men is not comfortable to hear, but it is the truth. They are that way. They've just been allowed not to have to be that way, but they will get right back in line. Do you understand something? That men understand what it is to have to meet requirements. We know what we have to do to make the track team. We know what we have to do to make the basketball team. We know what we have to do to graduate. We know what we have to do to climb the corporate ladder. We know what we have to do to get licensed for this or for that. We know that. When women stop making the requirements, we stop meeting them. What has happened is, because you all are so frustrated with the way men are, you've lessened the requirements. You don't do that. It's a very simple thing. He wants you. This how much it costs. Prove it. This how high the fence is. Jump. This is where it's buried. Start digging. You want the diamonds? Get your trucks out.
No, but it is true.
Ain't no pearls in the sand.
Yeah, Steve, but it is true what Chana's saying, that it does kind of take a sisterhood. You know, in the same way that Hillary Clinton wrote that book about child rearing called It Takes a Village, that it's not just parents, it's like a whole society, community. Chana's kind of saying that if one woman has standards, that makes a guy be like a gentleman and treat women properly, but other women have far lesser standards, and that guy's going to say, oh, I don't need this. I could, you know, I can go to a woman who doesn't have such high standards. So it's kind of, your book has to work almost collectively, influencing not a kind of woman, but womankind, like all of them kind of accepting, you know, if we want men to kind of change, then we have to elevate our communal standards, our social standards. It has to be more of a sisterhood.
And, you know, she's absolutely correct. And I've noticed a big change, like I said, since 2009. I understand what these women are up against today. I understand. The only thing I can give you to combat that is the information about how men really are. And we are at the core who we are. Now, you're absolutely right. If you don't do this and some other woman will, but guess what? He's not the one for you.
Yeah.
Now, it's a hard dance to have sometimes. You got to dance through so many to get to the one you want. But that's what it is. Success is hard. It's not really easy. Anything. You got to kiss a lot of frogs to get to Prince. I dated a lot of women to find Marjorie. I made a lot of mistakes to find Marjorie. See, it ain't just women that make mistakes, because women are like elevator buttons. They can take you up or they can take you down. If you get the wrong one, partner, as a man, you in a world of trouble. And I have selected the wrong one before. Trust me, when I was homeless, I fell in love with a woman because she had an apartment. I love you. Wait a minute. You have a bathroom? I love you. I love you. Oh my God, she has a key. She has a key to a door. I love you. I love you today. And guess what? I paid for that. I paid in spades for that one, man. Men make a lot of mistakes too. There's a song by this R&B artist named Kim, K-E-M. He has a line in the song that I absolutely love. He said, for every woman that needs a man, there's a man that needs you too. And I know that sounds hokey and corny, but he is out there, Hannah. He's going to walk up to you one day. He's already prepared. All you got to do is stay fly. You just got to stay fly. He's going to walk. You ain't even going to believe it. It's going to be too good to be true. And he's going to show up.
I'm not worried.
How can that not happen?
See, like the level, like when your daughter says she's looking for you, she's probably going to have a very hard time because the level, the values that men have are not what they used to be. They're just not. that's
true. That's true. And you live in a tough world today. We live in a fallen world. Yeah. We really do. You know, we live in a fallen world. You know, it's amazing, you know, with everything that's going on in our country today, and the country keeps saying, well, that's not the country we are. Well, hold up now. Keep seeing examples of it, and it's kind of hard for me not to think this ain't the country we have when we keep seeing all these examples of it. And so you're absolutely correct. Men have changed over the years. There are a lot of absent fathers now who are not around teaching their men how to be men. And it's created a burden on women. I do understand that. You're absolutely correct. But there's a little turn I've noticed in young people. And it's began with the way they even dress. I don't know if you've been paying attention right now, but if I watch music shows and stuff and red carpets, and I'm starting to see a little bit of change. And I'm starting to see in this generation a little bit more political involvement that I haven't seen in a number of years, man. And and it's starting to come together on all levels and all races. And I'm starting to see a little bit of a turn. And some of these guys that I thought was wild boys is starting to settle in. You know, when that generation right behind us, let me try to make this real quick for you. Problem we have is the generation that benefited from civil rights movement. We were so busy benefiting from getting these affirmative action jobs and stuff. We forgot to teach the generation of boys behind us the business of what manhood is. So we allowed coolness. It used to be the thing was to be cool. We let them replace that with hard. Our music used to be about how we felt about women and loved women and wanted women and needed women. And now all of a sudden we got songs that disparage women all the time. And that was our fault because we forgot to teach the next generation. But if you start looking now, you got the Jay-Z's that's getting married, the Rihanna's that's getting married. You start looking at the Drakes that's starting to look at this thing different. You even looking at some of these groups that's starting to get married, and they starting to, you know, they ain't staying together long because they don't know how to do that yet. But there's starting to be a little bit of a turn in this falling world that offers glimmers of hope. And people like you, Hannah, are a part of that glimmer of hope, that inquisitive young mind that's constantly trying to get it right and wanting to know the answers and wanting to have formats like this to talk about it. I mean, I'm on a show called Kosher Sex. That's crazy. How did I get here? You know what I'm saying? And for you all to come up with that, I'm like, wow, I got to do it because of the name Kosher Sex. You know, it took me a long time because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know anything about any other culture because I've been busy being Black and it's been hard. So, you know, I've had my own war. You know, I don't know when treaties get passed, and I never understood what was happening overseas and everything because I've been just trying to keep my sons from getting killed. And I've been in a war over here, so I didn't really know. But meeting your father and, you know, listening to him, and he was on my show that time, this show, like for me, I just never understood that there wasn't more of a connection between our two cultures, because if anybody should understand each other, it should be us.
Yeah.
The two biggest atrocities ever perpetrated against mankind was the Holocaust and slavery. Them two right there, buddy. Untouched, unmatched, unparalleled. You can't name nothing to top them two tricks, man. And it went on far too long. And so for us to form more of a collective bargaining agreement like in the NBA, I think is what has to happen, man, because look, we set up here the whole time we've been talking and all we got is stuff in common. You know, this father wants happiness for his daughter. Yeah. His daughter wants it. I want it. And so we got together. This is, I'm on Kosher Sex. Kosher Sex.
You got Steve Harvey.
This is a first for me, man. This guy, I want a copy of this tape because
we're gonna get it.
I got to send it to a group of friends of mine.
We're gonna get it.
You on what?
By the way, Steve, you know, ever since I was a boy, and you know, my parents divorced when I was a boy, and my mother worked at the Union Pacific Bank in Los Angeles at the Ambassador Hotel of all places. It was knocked down subsequently. It's where Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated in the summer of 1968. Can't believe they knocked it down. But my mother her marriage was crumbling all around her, and there was an African American woman who worked alongside her, and they became very close friends. And I was an Orthodox Jewish kid in LA, and I had exposure to this African American family and her children. And ever since then, it's been my passion, especially when I was a rabbi at Oxford with Cory Booker as my president, et cetera, to create real harmony between our two communities. And what astonishes me about the African American community in general, but about you in particular, because you're a global celebrity, and celebrities are often kind of understood as being, you know, into egocentricity and fame. What's amazing about you is how God is so much a part of your life. When I was on that show with you in Chicago, that amazed me that we did a whole show about God and Islam, Judaism, Christianity. But even in our subsequent conversations, your attachment to God is so available, it's so immediate, it's so present, it's so real. And it's actually very inspiring. And I've been talking to everybody about it, but it's a hallmark of the Black community. I mean, the civil rights movement it was really a religious movement. We call it a civil rights movement, but it took place in Black churches with reverends and pastors leading it. All the civil rights, most of the civil rights still today, all their names are reverend, et cetera, et cetera. Martin Luther King never had any title except reverend. I mean, doctor, because he was a PhD, of course, but he was the Reverend Martin Luther King, his father, Martin Luther King Sr. And you really embody that Godfulness that I so admire and appreciate. And I think you just said it, slavery and the Holocaust were the two great historical abominations and historical crimes. And what got both communities through it was this inability to suppress our faith, that we always had this faith, that we're not two communities that are united through a shared history of persecution. We're two communities that are united through a shared history of spiritual promise. We all believe in redemption. And it was providential that the last speech Martin Luther King ever gave on April 3rd, 1968 at Mason Temple was the mountaintop speech. So we're going to all climb this mountaintop and we're going to get to the promised land. And he didn't know that he was going to die the next day. But that was his last speech. Right. That really sums it up, this hopefulness. And even what you said today about relationships, about men, about women, it really is a hopeful, optimistic message. It's saying, if you're saying to women, if you value yourselves, if you have self-esteem, if you take yourselves seriously, and if you appreciate yourselves, you will expect men to appreciate you, and you will filter through all the noise, and you will find a gentleman who's a soulmate, who's a husband, and you'll have what you and Marjorie have. It's a beautiful message. I endorse it, and I can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. Chana, I hope I said something today. I know I did. I saw that little glow in your eye. I got you, and you get it. And you're a very bright young lady, and you get it, and you're inquisitive, and that's what you got to do. And you challenge the questions, and you want to know, and that's what it is. And I think it's a bright future for you. And, now when you meet him, you got to invite me to the wedding.
For sure. You're invited.
Okay,
Steve.
That's the deal. I really appreciate y'all having me today. And I really, really enjoyed this.
I'll see you later, Steve. It's been like 3 hours on Family Feud.
Thank you very much. Tell Miss Eleanor I said hello.
By the way, Steve, from your mouth to God's ears, I know that you were ordained in 2018 in New York, right, to do an on-air wedding at your New Year's Eve. Right? So you're ordained, man. So we're Chana.
Any day now.
Chana's gonna have a Jewish wedding.
We better off letting your dad do this one. Trust me.
Definitely be part of the ceremony, God willing. Thank you, Steve. God bless you.
Yeah, I got ordained with an asterisk next to it. Thank you guys very much.
Steve, thank
Take
you.
care.
Steve, thank you. Steve, thank you for lifting up America through the coronavirus. Thank you, making people laugh. Thank you for giving. It's been such a tough year, and people look at you and they laugh and they have hope, and you've lifted us all up. God bless you, and God reward you richly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.